My wife betrayed me with my cousin and my sister-in-law helped cover it. I don't think I can ever trust family again. I'm writing this because I need someone to know what I did. What I became. My therapist says confession is part of healing, but I don't think I deserve to heal. 3 months ago, I had everything. A wife who looked at me like I hung the moon. 2 kids who thought I was a superhero. A house with a mortgage we were actually ahead on. Family barbecues every Sunday where my cousin Jake would jokes and my sister-in-law Emma would bring her famous potato salad. Now I sleep on a futon in a studio apartment that smells like the previous tenant's cat. My kids won't look at me. And I found out 2 weeks ago that while I was busy destroying my marriage, my wife was doing the same thing. With Jake. And Emma knew the whole time. But here's the thing that keeps me at night. Staring at the water-stained ceiling I don't get to be angry. I lit the match. I just didn't know the whole house was already soaked in gasoline. It started 6 months ago at a work conference in Austin. Standard corporate stuff, boring presentations about quarterly projections, overpriced hotel coffee. Sarah, my wife, was home with our kids, 7 and 9, helping with homework and soccer practice like she always did while I traveled for work. I met Melissa at the hotel bar. She was funny, sharp, worked in marketing for a competitor. We talked about everything except our real lives. She didn't mention a boyfriend. I didn't mention my wedding ring, which I'd slipped into my pocket after the last presentation, because it had been pinching my finger. That's what I told anyway. Nothing happened that first night. Just talking. Just laughing in a way I hadn't laughed in months. Sarah and I had been in that place married couples get where conversations are just logistics. Did pick milk? When's Ethan's dentist appointment? Your mom called again about Thanksgiving. The second night, Melissa texted me. Bar again. I promise not to bore with more marketing horror stories. I should have said no. I should have video called my kids. I should have remembered the way Sarah smiled on our wedding day. How she cried when Ethan was born. How she held my hand through my dad's funeral. Instead I texted back, only if promise Tio bore me. Those stories were hilarious. We talked until 2 a.m. Somewhere around midnight our knees touched under the bar. Neither of us moved away. She put her hand on my arm when she laughed. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Seen, desired, exciting instead of just, dad, husband. The guy who takes out the garbage and falls asleep during movie night. When she me in the elevator I back. When she invited me to her room I went. When I woke at 4 a.m. and saw my phone full of texts from Sarah asking if I was okay, asking if I'd landed safely, sending photos of the kids at bedtime, asking when daddy would call, I felt my stomach turn inside out. I typed, Cone died, sorry. Love and hated with every letter. I told it was a one-time, a mistake, a moment of weakness that would never happen again. But Melissa and I exchanged numbers, started texting, nothing explicit, nothing obvious, just friendly. Hope your Monday isn't too brutal. That client sounds like a nightmare. In there. Sarah noticed I's on my phone more. Work stuff. I'd send, she'd nod, trusting me completely because in 11 years of marriage I'd never given her a reason not to. The affair lasted 4 months. 4 months of hotel rooms in different cities, of deleting texts, of lying about late meetings and weekend conferences. 4 months of watching my wife plan our daughter's birthday party, while I mentally rehearsed what I'd say to Melissa later that night. 4 months of my son asking why I seemed sad, and me telling him I was just tired from work. The worst part, I convinced I was doing nothing wrong because I still loved Sarah. I told people could love 2 people at once. That this was just scratching an itch, fulfilling a need Sarah couldn't meet because she was too busy being an amazing mom and holding our family together. I was a coward wrapped in delusion, tied with a bow of entitlement. It ended when Melissa's actual boyfriend found out. Turns out she'd been lying too, telling him she was visiting her sick mother on all those business trips. He called me, at home, on a Sunday morning while Sarah was making pancakes and the kids were fighting over the remote. Is this the piece of garbage who's been sleeping with my girlfriend? He said when I answered. I watched the color drain from Sarah's face. Watched her put down the spatula. Watched my daughter stop mid-argument and look at me with confused eyes. Wrong number, I said, my voice shaking. I hung. Sarah stood there, batter dripping off the spatula onto the floor. Who was that? Telemarketer. Crazy person. I don't know. She didn't believe me, I could see it in her eyes. But she wanted to believe me so badly that she nodded and went back to the pancakes, her hands trembling. That night after the kids were asleep, she asked me again. Is there something need to tell me? I should have confessed, should have fallen to my knees and begged forgiveness and let the consequences hit me. But I looked at her face, still beautiful, still trusting despite the fear in her eyes, and I said, there's nothing, I promise. I love. She cried herself to sleep that night. I lay there listening, frozen, knowing I was letting her drown. The truth came out 2 weeks later when Melissa's boyfriend posted screenshots of our texts on Facebook. He tagged me, tagged Sarah, tagged everyone. I was at work when my phone started exploding. 50 notifications, 100. My boss called me into his office with a look of disgust I'd never seen directed at me before. Sarah called once. I didn't answer. She didn't call again. When I got home that evening the house was dark. The kids were at Sarah's mom's. Sarah was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open, reading every single message I'd sent to Melissa. 4 months of lies laid out in harsh blue light. She looked at me with eyes so empty it felt like looking at a stranger. Get out, Sarah, please, let me explain. Get out. I packed a bag. Walked out of my house, my family. Drove to a motel and sat in a dark room trying to figure out how I'd become this person. The next week was a blur of angry calls from my in-laws, my own parents refusing to speak to me, my kids crying on the phone asking why daddy wasn't home. Sarah filed for divorce immediately, asked for full custody. I didn't. My daughter wrote me a letter. She's 9, said did stop loving us. Is that why I left? Mommy cries every night. That letter is on my fridge now. I read it every morning to remember what I am. But here's where it gets worse. Here's the part that makes me want to crawl out of my own skin. 2 weeks after Sarah kicked me out I went to pick more of my stuff. She wasn't home. But Jake's car was in the driveway. Jake, my cousin. My best friend since we were kids. The guy who was best man at my wedding. I walked in and heard voices upstairs louder. Sarah's voice lighter than I'd heard it in months. Then Jake's voice he never deserved. I've thought that for years. I stood at the bottom of the stairs frozen. Heard footsteps. A door closing. Silence. When I finally walked, They were inseparable. When the bedroom saw me, went white. Jake came out of the guest room, wouldn't meet my eyes. How long, I asked. Sarah's face hardened. How long what? How long have I been comforted by someone who actually cares about me? About 2 weeks. How long did lie to me? 4 months. He's my cousin. My family, she laughed, bitter and broken. And I was your wife, your family. But that didn't stop, did it? I found out later that Emma, Jake's wife, my sister-in-law, had known about Sarah and Jake from the beginning, had encouraged it even. Sarah deserves happiness, she told Jake. He destroyed her. Give her something good. Emma had helped cover for them. Took the kids for sleepovers so they could have time alone. Lied to me when I called asking if she'd seen Sarah. My entire family had become strangers. The people I trusted most had reorganized themselves into a new configuration. And I was the villain they'd written out of the story. And I can't even be angry. Because I started this. I burned down the house and now I'm shocked that everyone found somewhere else to live. The divorce was finalized last month. Sarah got the house, primary custody, most of our savings. I get the kids every other weekend if they want to come. They usually don't. Last weekend Ethan finally agreed to visit. He's 7. He brought his favorite toys and barely spoke for 2 hours. Then, quietly, while we were eating pizza, why did mommy? I didn't have an answer, I still don't. I made a terrible mistake, doesn't it? I was selfish, doesn't explain it. Nothing explains it. He nodded like he expected that. Then, Uncle Jake lives with us now. He's nice to mommy. He doesn't make her cry. In my chest cracked. That's good, buddy. I'm glad mommy's not sad. Her sad. I looked at my son, his eyes so big and trusting, still looking for his dad to be a hero. Yeah, I'm very sad. Good, he said. Then went back to his pizza. I saw them all at a family funeral last week. My grandmother Sarah came with Jake. Emma came with her new boyfriend, some guy from her yoga class. The kids ran to Sarah and Jake, calling him Uncle Jake, in that easy way kids do. And I stood there in my cheap rental suit watching the I destroyed continue without me. My mom pulled me aside. Did this too. Don't dare make a scene. I didn't. I stayed for 15 minutes, paid my respects, left. Drove back to my apartment and stared at my daughter's letter on the fridge. The thing about betrayal is that think it's about attraction. About some failing in your relationship. But it's not, it's about choice. Every single day I chose to lie. Chose to prioritize my ego over my family. Chose to believe I deserved something more, something better, when I already had everything. Sarah's betrayal with Jake. It wouldn't have happened if I hadn't betrayed her first. Emma's lies wouldn't have existed if I hadn't made lying acceptable. My kids' pain wouldn't exist if I'd been the father they deserved. I did this. All of it. And now I'm on the outside of my own, looking in through windows at the family I destroyed. I don't trust family anymore because I broke that trust first. I showed them that vows don't matter. That love is disposable. That the person built it with can become a stranger in a hotel room with someone whose last name barely remember. They learned from me. They just learned better. I see posts online sometimes from people who got cheated on, and the comments are always, they didn't deserve better, they'll regret it. But I'm here to tell sometimes the cheater doesn't regret losing. They regret becoming the kind of person who could lose. I don't miss Melissa. I barely remember what she looks like. I miss the man I used to be. The one who came home from work and his kids tackled him with hugs. The one whose wife smiled when he walked in the room. The one who was invited to family barbecues. That man is dead. I killed him the moment I slipped my wedding ring into my pocket, and told it was because it was pinching my finger. Tonight, I'll eat microwave dinner in front of my laptop. Maybe I'll scroll through photos from before, with images of my kids' faces when they still loved me. Maybe I'll sleep. Probably I won't. Tomorrow I'll wake and do it again. Because this is my now. This is what I built from the ashes of everything that mattered. I hope someone reads this and stops. Stops before they text back. Stops before they lie. Stops before they become the villain in their own story. Because there's no coming back from this. No redemption arc. No moment where everyone forgives and goes back to normal. There's just the daily work of being a person can barely stand to look at. It's been 6 months since I wrote that first post. People told me it would get easier. They lied. Or maybe they meant a different kind of easier. Easier to breathe maybe. But not easier to live with. I'm writing this from the same apartment. Same food on. Same water stain on the ceiling that looks like a face screaming appropriate. Things have happened. Bad things, worse things. Things that make me understand that rock bottom has a basement, and that basement has a crawl space, and I'm somewhere down there in the dark, scraping my knees on concrete, wondering how much deeper it goes. The first thing need to understand is that being the cheater in a divorce means become a ghost. Not the scary kind, the pathetic kind. The kind people look through at grocery stores. The kind whose calls go to voicemail. The kind whose name makes people change the subject. I ran into Sarah's best friend Monica, at the coffee shop 2 months ago. We'd known each other for over a decade. She was at our wedding. I held her baby at the hospital when she gave birth. She looked right at me, turned around and walked out. Didn't even grab her coffee, just left. I stood there holding my overpriced lat, watching through the window as she sat in her car with her hands on the steering wheel, visibly upset that she'd accidentally occupied the same space as me. That's what I am now. A reminder of how badly people can fail. My company let me go 3 months ago. They called it restructuring. But my boss pulled me aside after and said, "Look man, your personal became public knowledge. Clients have complained. It's not a good look." Apparently, one of our biggest accounts, a family-owned business, specifically requested I be removed from their team after someone showed them the Facebook posts. The CEO, a woman in her 60s, told my boss, "I don't do business with men who abandon their families." I wanted to explain. To say I didn't abandon them, I destroyed them, which is somehow different. But I didn't. I cleaned out my desk and left. Finding a new job has been impossible. Every interview goes fine until they Google me. Then suddenly there's a phone call. We've decided to go in a different direction. My LinkedIn profile has become a graveyard. I watch my old colleagues get promoted, celebrate wins, post about their happy families. I haven't posted in 6 months. What would I even say? Thrilled to announce I'm still unemployed and my kids won't return my calls. Money is getting tight. Really tight. The child support and alimony eat most of my unemployment. I've sold my car, my watch, my golf clubs. Things I thought mattered. Turns out they were just decorations on I don't have anymore. I eat ramen 4 nights a week. The fancy kind though. The kind with the seasoning packet that's slightly bigger. That's what passes for treating these days. My parents finally agreed to see me last month. Mom made dinner. Roast, my favorite. Dad barely looked at me the whole time. Halfway through the meal Dad put down his fork. No, your brother won't let his kids around. I didn't know that. What? He doesn't want them thinking what did is normal. That it's okay to break promises. Mom touched Dad's hand. Honey, maybe not now. When then? Dad's voice cracked. I raised him better than this, we both did, and now I can't even talk about my own grandkids without asking about the divorce, about what he did. He looked at me finally, his eyes were wet. Didn't just Sarah and the kids, all of us, made us complicit somehow. I couldn't eat after that. I pushed roast around my plate while my parents sat in silence, and I realized I'd stolen their pride. The ability to talk about their son without shame. The kids came for a visit 8 weeks ago. First time in a month. Emma dropped them off, wouldn't come inside. Just handed them over like contaminated cargo. Ethan and Lily stood in my apartment looking around with these careful sad eyes, taking inventory of how far their dad had fallen. It's small, Lily said. She's 9, old enough to measure disappointment. Yeah, but it's close to that pizza place like, we don't really like that place anymore, Ethan said quietly. Uncle Jake found a better one. Uncle Jake. The phrase that lives in my chest like a, we tried to have a normal afternoon, went to the park, got ice cream. But everything was strained artificial. They were polite. That was the worst part. Not angry, just polite, like I was a distant relative they had to be nice to. Lily's phone buzzed. She looked at it and smiled for the first time that day. Mom says Uncle Jake is making his special burgers for dinner. That's nice. I said, my voice hollow. They're really good. He puts his sauce on them. And he lets us help cook. She paused. Never let us help cook. She was right. I'd been too impatient, too focused on doing things efficiently. Jake apparently had time to teach them things, to make memories, to be present in ways I never was even when I lived there. When Emma picked them, Lily hugged me. It felt obligatory. Ethan waved from the car. I watched them drive away and then sat on my futon in the dark for 3 hours. Around midnight I did something. I drove to my old house. Sarah's house now. Hers and Jake's. The lights were on. I could see them through the living room window. Sarah was laughing at something Jake said. The kids were in their pajamas curled on the couch watching a movie. A family. Whole. Everything I'd had. Everything I'd thrown away. Jake got and ruffled Ethan's hair. Ethan grinned at him with pure affection. The way he used to look at me. I sat in my car across the street for 20 minutes, crying so hard I thought I might. This was it. The real consequence. Not the divorce papers or the empty apartment. This, watching someone else become the father I should have been. A neighbor I didn't recognize came out and approached my car. Need to leave or I'm calling the cops. We don't want around here. I left, drove back to my apartment. In the parking lot. I started therapy 6 weeks ago. Court mandated, part of the custody arrangement. Dr. Morrison is kind in a clinical way like she's seen worse and I'm just another case file. Tell me about your relationship with your father. She says disappointed in me. Before this. Growing bot. I thought about it. Dad worked a lot, provided well. Was there for the important things but handled most of the parenting was fine. Good dad. Worked hard. Did feel seen by him. I don't know. I guess I thought being a good provider was the same as being a good father. Dr. Morrison wrote something down. And now see the difference. Yeah. Now I see the difference. Jake is there for homework and nightmares and scraped knees. I sent money and showed to recitals. Jake built a relationship. I maintained an obligation, realizing we're repeating a pattern, she said, being physically present but emotionally absent. And when Melissa made feel seen feel interesting again it was intoxicating. That's not an excuse. No. But it's an explanation. Understanding doesn't mean absolving. I ran into Jake last month. Actually ran into him, physically at a Target. I was buying birthday decorations. We both froze. Hey, he said. Not hostile. Almost pitying. Hey, silence. The most awkward 30 seconds of my. Lily's birthday is next week. He finally said I knew. I'd sent a card to Sarah's house. Didn't hear back. Yeah. Tell her I said happy birthday. Sarah wasn't sure if she should give it to her. The words hit like a, my own daughter. My card was a debate. But she did. And Lily read it. She put it on her dresser. I didn't trust my voice. Just nodded. Jake shifted his weight. Look man, I know this is messed all of it. I know. We're supposed to have my back. I did for years. Until it away. His voice was quiet, not cruel. Just factual. Sarah was destroyed. Completely broken. The kids were asking questions she couldn't answer. Someone had to step. So stepped into my paw. Stepped out of it first. He paused. I'm not going to apologize for caring about them. For being there when they needed someone. Do love her. He met my eyes. Yeah I do. I always did if I'm honest. But I never would have. Not if hadn't. No. We stood there. 2 men who'd grown together. Who'd been inseparable once now separated by a chasm I'd dug. The kids ask about Jake said. I tell them love them. That made mistakes but are still their dad. Do they believe? Sometimes. He grabbed at his cart. Started to walk away. Then stopped. For what it's worth. It had been different. I'd been the man they needed. Me too. I found out last week that Sarah and Jake are engaged. Emma told me actually. Called me out of nowhere. I thought should know before the kids mention it. Thanks, I guess. Luma said and her voice was strange, regretful maybe. I was angry at so angry. What did to Sarah to those kids? But Jake left me for her. Didn't know that. He divorced me to be with her. I didn't know. I'm sorry. Don't be. I encouraged it, remember. I thought I was helping Sarah heal. Turns out I was just helping Jake get what he wanted. She laughed bitterly. Karma's funny like that. I helped cover for them and now I'm the other abandoned spouse. At least didn't deserve it. Didn't I? I lied. I manipulated. I was so focused on punishing that I didn't see what was happening. She paused. We both lost, didn't we? Lost your family. I lost my marriage and my moral high ground. We sat in silence on the phone. The worst part, Emma continued, is that I still think we're the bad guy. Started all of this. But I'm starting to understand how easy it is to make terrible choices when you're angry or are lonely. That doesn't make what I did okay. No. But it destructively human. The kids came for Christmas. Court ordered non-negotiable. Sarah dropped them off looking exhausted. They don't want to be here, she said. But the judge said get Christmas Eve. I'll make it good for them. She looked at me with something like pity. Can't, that's the point. Can't fix this. Can only show and hope someday it matters. I decorated. Bought presents, made cookies. The apartment looked like Christmas in it, desperate and trying too hard. The kids were polite again. Thanked me for the gifts. Ate the cookies. But they kept checking their phones, kept talking about what Mom and Uncle Jake were doing tomorrow. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She came out to the living room where I was watching TV with the volume low. Dad, hey, sweetie, Clete. She sat next to me, small.
Fragile, lonely. The question broke something. Yeah, I am.
Good, she said matter-of-factly. Not cruel. Just honest, like she was confirming the sky was blue. I used to cry every night after left, she continued. I thought didn't love us anymore. That we weren't good enough. Lily, no. That's not. I know that now. Mom explained. Love someone else. Picked her instead of us. It wasn't like that. I didn't stop loving. Love is what do right, that's what Uncle Jake says. And did mean things. So didn't love us enough. I had no response. She was 9 years old and had just delivered the most devastating truth of my. I think I forgive, she said quietly. Some a day. But I don't think I'll ever forbid. I sat in the dark for hours. New Year's Eve I spent alone. Scrolled through social media, torturing. Sarah posted a photo of her, Jake and the kids, everyone smiling. The caption, New Year, new chapter, surrounded by love. 300 likes. Comments full of support. Beautiful family, so happy for. No one mentioned me. I'd been edited out. Cropped from the narrative. The story now goes Sarah was married, he betrayed her, she found Jake, happily ever after. I'm just the obstacle they overcame. I'm not even the villain anymore. I'm the nothing that came before. Dr. Morrison asked me last week what I've learned. That consequences are real. That some mistakes are permanent. That can't unbecome a person who betrays people. What else? That my kids will grow remembering me as the dad who left. Who mom who wasn't enough. And I deserve that. I deserve all of it. She leaned forward. Deserving punishment and learning from it are different things. What are learning? I thought about Lily's words. Love is what do. I'm learning that I don't know how to love people without it being about me. That I thought providing and being present at events was enough. That I never actually saw Sarah, or the kids, as whole people with needs I was supposed to meet. I saw them as accessories to my pie. And now, no, they're living their whole lives without me, and it's probably better for them. Jake and Sarah's wedding is in 3 months. I'm not invited, obviously. The kids asked if I'd be sad. Yeah, but I'll be okay. Uncle Jake said can come if want. That it might be good for us to see everyone be civil. Jake said that. The man who replaced me is more gracious than I ever was. I don't think that's a good idea, bud. But that's nice of him to offer. He's pretty nice. Ethan said, most of the time. Sometimes he trailed off, nothing. Never mind, but I knew. Sometimes he wishes I was the nice one. The one who chose them. I got a letter from my brother last week. He hasn't spoken to me in 8 months. It said, I don't know if I'll ever understand what did. But are still my brother. And I see destroying trying to make sense of it. Maybe it's time to accept that some things don't make sense. Failed, catastrophically. Now have to decide if we're going to fail at being a person too, or if we're going to show your kids that even terrible people can try to be better. This isn't an invitation to family dinner. Just a reminder that rock bottom stops when stop digging. I read it 20 times. Put it next to Lily's letter on my fridge. 2 documents, 2 truths. I'd stop digging. Valentine's Day was last week. I saw Sarah and Jake at a restaurant was picking takeout. They were at a table by the window holding hands talking quietly. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen. Laughing at something he said, she looked happy. Actually genuinely happy. Not the performative happiness of social media. Real joy. I wanted to feel righteous anger. But all I felt was this hollow ache. She deserved that. She deserved someone who made her laugh, who chose her every single day. I just wished I'd been that person before someone else had to be. The thing they don't tell about being the cheater is that don't get closure. Your ex moves on, your kids adapt. Your family restructures. But her stuck in the moment destroyed everything, replaying it on loop, trying to find the exact second could have stopped. Was it when I took off my ring, when I texted her the next day, when I lied to Sarah the first time, the 100th time? Or was it years before? Was it every time I chose work over family? Every time I let Sarah handle bedtime alone? Every time I saw my kishments as obligations instead of privileges? Maybe I was always going to end here. Maybe I was always this person, and Melissa was just the match that revealed what I was made of. I'm working part-time now. Warehouse job, overnight shift. The pay is terrible but no one cares about my past. The boxes don't Google me, the forklift doesn't judge. My coworkers are mostly guys like me. Divorced, broke, starting over. We don't talk about it. Just load trucks and pretend we're not all running from something. One guy, Carlos, mentioned his kids last week them in 2 years. Ex moved to Nevada. That's rough, I said. I cheated, she gave me chances, I kept doing it. He shrugged. Some of us are just built wrong. No, I don't know if I believe that. I want to believe people can change. That I can change. But most nights I'm not sure. Lily's birthday was yesterday. She's 10 now, double digits. A whole decade that I was there for, and then I wasn't. I sent a present, a book series she'd mentioned months ago. I don't know if she still wants it. Kids change so fast and I'm missing all of it. First time she's initiated contact in months. Dad, hey, sweetheart, happy birthday. Thanks, I got your present. I'm already on book 2. It's really good. I'm so glad. Silence. Then, Uncle Jake is officially adopting us. After the wedding, Mom said it would make things easier legally. The words landed like bricks. Or still our dad. Jake said that's important. We'll still be our biological dad, but he'll be other kind, the legal kind. The everyday kind. I said quietly. Yeah, that's good, Lily. I want guys to ask question. Deserved an honest answer. It hurts. A lot. But yeah, I want to have someone there. Someone reliable. Someone who doesn't leave. Yeah. She nodded. Okay, well I have cake to eat. Uncle Jake made it from scratch. Happy birthday, sweetheart, she smiled, small and sad. Bye Dad. The call ended. I sat holding my phone, staring at my own reflection in the blank screen. I'm writing this final entry because someone messaged me after the last post. A kid 19 years old, said his dad cheated on his mom when he was 7. Said he's in therapy now, 12 years later, still trying to figure out how to trust people. He asked me, does it ever stop them? I don't know. But I'm starting to understand that's the wrong question. The question isn't when it stops. It's what built from the pain. It's been a year now, 12 months since I wrote that first post, 14 months since Sarah kicked me out, a lifetime since I was the person I pretended to be. The wedding happened 2 months ago. Saturday afternoon, small ceremony, Sarah's parents' backyard. I know because Ethan told me about it afterward. His voice careful like he was diffusing it was nice. Lily was a junior bridesmaid. I walked mom down the aisle with Jake's son, 13 from his marriage to Emma. Another kid watching parents split and reform into new configurations. Another casualty I never think about. That sounds really special, bud. Yeah, everyone cried. Happy crying though. Not like, he stopped. Not like when I left. Not like the months after. Not like the kind of crying that happens when someone breaks everything. I'm glad it was happy, I said, and I meant it. Sort of, in the way can mean something and have it destroy at the same time. There's something else. His voice got smaller. The adoption went through. Legally Jake's our dad now too. Mom said to tell that it doesn't change anything with, yeah, but it changes everything. Yeah, we sat in silence on the phone. My son 11 years old learning how to deliver devastating news gently. A skill he learned because of me. I see Dr. Morrison every week still. Not court mandated anymore, I pay for it, which means I eat more ramen and skip other things but I need it. Need someone to witness what I'm becoming. Tell me about anger, she said last session. What about it? Never express it. In all our sessions have been remorseful, sad, ashamed. But never angry. I don't get to be angry. I did this. Can be both. Responsible for your choices and angry about the consequences. Angry at Jake, at Emma, at Sarah. It doesn't make right, but it makes human. I thought about it, I am angry. Sometimes. Late at night I'm furious. At Jake for being better than me. At Sarah for moving on so completely. At my kids for adapting. At the world for not stopping me before I ruined everything. And at, most of all for being enough to think I could have everything. For believing I was special enough that rules didn't apply to me. She wrote something down. That's grief. Or grieving the person thought were. That person never existed. Exactly. And that might be the hardest to mourn. The work at the warehouse became permanent. I'm a supervisor now, which sounds more impressive than it is. Mostly I just make sure the night shift doesn't fall asleep and that trucks get loaded on time. The pay is enough to survive. Not thrive. Just survive. I moved to a slightly better apartment last month. 1 bedroom instead of a studio. The ceiling doesn't have a screaming face. Small victories. My manager Tom is divorced 2-3 times. He pulled me aside last week during break. We're doing good work. Reliable. Don't see that much anymore. Thanks. How long since your divorce? Year and a half since separation. Year since it finalized. He nodded. Gets easier around year 3. Stop checking their social media. Stop hoping they'll text. Stop measuring every woman meet against what lost. I don't really meet women. Yeah, that's probably smart. Or not ready anyway. Trust me. I rushed into number 2 trying to prove I was still loveable. Just made a bigger mess. How to know when ready? He thought about it. When can be alone without it feeling like punishment? When forgive enough to believe deserve another chance? He paused. Most guys never get there. They just move from one relationship to another, dragging the same problems. Which one are? He smiled sadly. Still figuring that out, I ran into Monica again. Sarah's best friend who walked out of the coffee shop. This time we were both at a stoplight, sitting in adjacent lanes. She looked over, saw me, didn't look away, the light changed. We both drove. But she didn't flinch this time, didn't act like I was radioactive. Maybe that's progress. Maybe after enough time go from monster to just another guy who not forgiven. Just neutralized. My parents invited me to Thanksgiving dinner. First family event in over a year. Your brother will be there. Mom said on the phone. With his family I've talked to him. He's agreed to be civil. What about his rule about not wanting me around his kids? Silence. Then they're older now. He thinks they can handle it. And honestly, honey, I miss having my whole family together. Even if it's broken. Thanksgiving was exactly as awkward as expected. My brother's kids, teenagers now, looked at me like I was a documentary they'd studied in school. Cautious fascination. My nephews didn't hug me, just nodded. Hey, Uncle Mike. My brother shook my hand. Didn't hug. Good to see. Dinner was tense. Everyone talked around me. About work, about school, about anything but the obvious. My niece asked what I did for work now. Warehouse supervisor, overnight shift, she nodded. My brother's wife jumped in. That's honest work. Nothing in her voice was worse than the silence. Halfway through dinner, my nephew, 16, said, so Uncle Mike, did ever remarry? The table went silent. My brother closed his eyes. Mom said, Daniel, that's not appropriate. It's okay, I said. No, I haven't. Probably won't. Why not? 'Cause I'm not very good at it. He nodded, satisfied with the honesty. That's fair. Later my brother found me outside. I was sitting on the porch avoiding dessert. He shouldn't have asked that. He's curious. We stood in silence. I tell my kids sometimes about what did. Use as a cautionary tale. The words should have, they didn't. They were just true. That's fair. I don't tell them. I tell them that good people can make terrible choices. That we're a good dad until weren't. That consequences are real. They ask if we're sorry. I tell them I think are. But sorry doesn't fix everything. It doesn't fix anything. I said no. But it's a start. He paused. I'm still angry at. For what put mom and dad through. For making family gatherings like defusing bombs. But are my brother. And I'm trying to figure out what that means now. It doesn't have to mean anything. It means I don't want to alone and miserable. Even if part of me thinks deserve it. He looked at me. Or doing the work, right? Therapy and all that. Yeah, then keep doing it. Not for Sarah or the kids, they're gone, man. That's done. Do it so maybe in 10 years or someone who can stand to look in the mirror. He went back inside. I sat there for another hour, watching my breath fog in the cold air, thinking about 10 years from now. Christmas this year, the kids came for Christmas morning. Court order again. Sarah dropped them off at 7 a.m. They wanted to do presents at home first, with Jake. This is your 2 hours 2 hours. That's what I've been reduced to, a time slot. Lily is 10 now. Ethan is 11. They're growing so fast and I'm missing all of it. Lily's voice is changing, getting older. Ethan is taller than I remember. We opened presents. I got them things they'd mentioned in texts in our brief phone calls. A skateboard for Ethan. Art supplies for Lily. These are nice, Lily said. Polite, so distant. Uncle Jake got me a gaming PC, Ethan said. Not bragging, just stating facts. We're building it together this weekend. That's great, bud. We drank hot chocolate, made small talk. They told me about school, about friends I don't know, about I'm not part of. Then Ethan said something that changed everything. Dad, can I ask something, and have to be honest? Of course. Dude, never done it. Like if could go back would stay with mom. Lily looked from her art supplies. Both of them watching me, needing something from this answer. I thought about lying, about saying of course obviously without question. But they deserved the truth. Even if I had been a better man. I had appreciated what I had. I'd been present and engaged and shown the way Jake shows now. I paused, but if I'm completely honest, I don't know if I would have changed, because the person I was then didn't think he needed to. He thought he was doing fine. Thought providing was enough. And that's the scariest part. I might have made the same mistakes again because I didn't know they were mistakes. Ethan nodded slowly. Uncle Jake said something like that. That didn't know how to be what we needed. He's right. Learning now? Lily asked. How to be better. I'm trying. But it's for next time. For whoever I am after all this, it's too late for us. Yeah, Lily said quietly. It is. She wasn't being cruel, just honest, and somehow that more. Sarah picked them exactly at 9 a.m. They hugged me, obligatory and brief, and left. I spent the rest of Christmas alone. Didn't turn on the TV. Didn't eat. Just sat in the growing dark thinking about the question, would I change it? The answer kept shifting.
Yes.
No, I don't know. Maybe. New Year's Eve I worked. Volunteered for the shift so guys with families could be home. Carlos thanked me. Or a good guy, Mike. I'm not. Or trying to be, that counts for something. At midnight the warehouse horn blew. Everyone cheered. New year. Fresh start. All that stuff people say. I thought about Sarah and Jake. Probably at some party surrounded by friends kissing at midnight. My kids sleeping upstairs, safe and happy in a home I don't belong to. I thought about Melissa. Wondered if she ever thinks about me. Probably not. I was just a story she tells at parties. This crazy ex-boyfriend called me once. I thought about the man I used to be. The one who wore nice suits and played golf and had a family that greeted him with smiles. He was a stranger. I didn't miss him. I just mourned what he'd had. Last week I got a letter from Lily. Not email, not text, an actual handwritten letter. It said, Dad, I'm writing this for a school project about forgiveness. We're supposed to write to someone who us and tell them how we feel. Mom said I didn't have to show it to, but I want to. Me really bad. All of us. When left I thought it was my fault. That I wasn't good enough for to stay. Mom says that's not true, but kid brains are weird. I'm not mad anymore. Not like before, I'm just sad. Sad that are not here. Sad that Uncle Jake is nice but he's not. Sad that we can't go back. Mom says forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means letting go of the anger, so it doesn't. I think I'm forgiving, but because I deserve to not be angry. Or still my dad. Biology doesn't change. But are not my parent anymore. Uncle Jake is. And that's okay. It has to be okay because it's what's real. I hope doing better. I hope figured out whatever was broken inside that made leave. I hope someday we can talk without it so much. But if we can't, that's okay too. I'll be okay either way. Love, Lily. P.S. Ethan wanted me to tell he doesn't. He's just disappointed. He says that's worse, but I'm not sure. I read that letter 50 times. Put it on my fridge next to her old one. 2 bookends. I'm forgiving growth. Painful, slow, incomplete growth. Dr. Morrison asked me yesterday what I wanted. Not what I deserved. Not what I'd lost. What I actually wanted. I want to be someone my kids remember as trying. Not as the guy who left. The guy who mom. I want them to remember that after I messed, I didn't run away from it. I kept showing even when it was hard. Even when they didn't want me there. That's good. What else? I want to forgive. I don't know if I can. Why? Because hating doesn't help anyone. It doesn't undo what I did. It just makes me smaller. Meaner. More broken. I paused. And maybe if I forgive, I can show my kids that people can survive their worst mistakes. That can be terrible and still become better. Pine, yeah. For me. I saw Sarah at Ethan's soccer game 2 weeks ago. First time in months. She was with Jake, holding his hand cheering for our son. Their son now legally. I stood on the opposite side of the field, far enough away to not intrude enough to be there. Ethan scored. Sarah and Jake jumped screaming. I clapped quietly alone, proud and heartbroken. After the game, Ethan ran to them. They hugged him, ruffled his hair. Then he looked across the field and saw me, waved. I waved back. He said something to Sarah. She looked over, nodded. He ran over. Came. Of course. Said had a game. I didn't think actually far. I'll always show if want me there. But he nodded. Cool. He paused. Should come to more games. If why want. He smiled. Small. Uncertain. But real. He ran back to Sarah and Jake. They drove off to get a family. I drove back alone. But that smile. That small, uncertain smile. It was something I'm not gonna tell him healed. That I found peace. That everything worked out. It didn't want. My kids are growing without me. My ex-wife is married to my cousin. My family tolerates me but doesn't trust me. I work overnight shifts loading trucks and eat ramen and live in a 1-bedroom apartment that smells like old carpet. This is my now. The one I built. The consequences I earned. But I'm learning things. Important things. I'm learning that love is what do, not what feel. That being present means more than being there. That can destroy everything good in you in the time it takes to text someone back. I'm learning that forgiveness is complicated. That my kids can forgive me and still not want me around. That I can be sorry and still have to live with what I did. I'm learning that some mistakes are permanent. That some relationships don't heal. That sometimes the best thing can do is accept the consequences and stop trying to minimize them. I'm learning that rock bottom isn't a place, it's a choice. Can always dig deeper. Or can stop. Put down the shovel. Start the slow climb. Last night I had dinner with my parents. Just the 3 of us. Mom made roast again. Dad looked at me across the table. Look better. Clearer. I'm working on it. I can see that. He paused. I'm proud of, not for what did. For what doing now. For not running away from it. I don't have anywhere to run to. Sure do. Could have moved away. Changed your name. Started over somewhere else. Pretended none of this happened. He looked me in the eye. But stayed. That takes courage. I didn't feel courageous. I felt tired. But I nodded. Mom reached across and squeezed my hand. Always be our son. Even when we're hard to love. Eve, I'm sorry I made it complicated. We know. The person who messaged me, the 19-year-old kid, wrote again yesterday. Thank for being honest. My dad never admitted what he did was wrong. He just blamed mom and moved on. Reading your stuff helps me understand that some people actually feel bad. That some people try to be better. I wrote back, tell your dad to get therapy. To actually do the work. And if he won't, then learn from his mistakes instead. Be the person he wasn't. Break the cycle, he responded. I'm trying. It's hard. I don't trust people I don't trust. Yeah, that doesn't go away. But learn to live with it. Learn that being trustworthy is a choice make every day. And some days will fail. But keep choosing. Is that what do? That's what I'm learning to do. I don't know what happens next. Maybe the kids and I rebuild something. Maybe we don't. Maybe I meet someone someday who can love me despite knowing what I am. Maybe I don't. Maybe I spend the rest of my alone working overnight shifts, eating ramen, visiting my kids every other weekend if they'll let me. Maybe that's what I deserve. Or maybe, just maybe, that a version of this story where I become someone worth forgiving. Not forgiven yet, not absolved, but worth it. Eventually, I don't know. What I do know is this: every single day I wake and make a choice. To show. To be honest. To not run away. To carry the weight of what without letting it crush me completely. Some days I fail. Most days honestly. But I keep trying. Not for Sarah. Not for the kids. Not even for redemption. For the basic human necessity of being able to look in the mirror without wanting to put my fist through it. Last week, Lily called me. Dad, I need advice. Okay. What's? There's this boy at school. He likes me, but he has a girlfriend, and has been texting me anyway. And it feels wrong but also kind of exciting and I don't know what to do. My heart stopped. My 10-year-old daughter. Facing the same choice. The same temptation. Lily, listen to me. That excitement feel. That's not love. That's not special. That's just novelty and ego. And if get involved with someone who's with someone else, will become the person who makes someone else cry. Will become someone can't respect. What if he's really great? What if his girlfriend isn't right for him? Then he needs to break with her first. If he won't do that, he's not great. He's just available. And deserve more than available. Silence. Then, as that what happened with. I met someone who made me feel exciting again. And I chose that feeling over everything that actually mattered. And now look at us. Look at our family. Look at what it cost. Do regret it. Every single day. More silence. Then, okay, I'll tell him to leave me and I'm proud of Pi for doing what didn't. The words hung there accurate. Brutal. Yeah, for being smarter than I was. Braver than I was. Okay, thanks Dad. She hung. I sat there shaking. My daughter had almost made my mistake. And she'd called me for advice. Had trusted me enough to be honest. Had listened. Maybe that's what comes from consequences. From not hiding. From showing your kids exactly what failure looks like. Maybe they learn to avoid it. I'm not the hero of this story. There is no hero. Just people making choices and living with them. I chose wrong. Chose selfishly. Chose the temporary over the permanent. And now I live in the world that choice created. Sarah chose to move on. To find happiness with someone who showed to rebuild. Jake chose to be there. To step into the wreckage and build something new. The kids are choosing, every day, whether to let me be part of their lives. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Always their choice. Emma chose bitterness and then had to watch it backfire. Now she's alone too, learning the same lessons from a different angle. We're all just choosing. Over and over. Building or destroying. Healing or. There's no happy ending here. No redemption arc. No moment where everyone forgives me and we all move forward together. There's just today. And tomorrow. And the day after. There's just me showing for supervised visits and soccer games. Sending child support checks. Going to therapy. Working overnight shifts. Trying to be a person my kids can eventually talk to without it. There's just the slow grinding work of becoming someone I don't completely. And maybe 20 years from now, when my kids are adults with lives of their own, maybe they'll call sometimes, not because they have to, because they want to. Maybe they'll introduce me to their partners, their kids, and say, this is my dad. He made some really bad choices, but he owned them, and he kept showing, maybe not. But I'll keep showing anyway, because that's all I have left. The choice to not make it worse. The choice to be present even from a distance. The choice to let my kids see that people can survive their worst selves, not thrive, not triumph. Just survive. And sometimes on the really hard nights, when I'm alone in my apartment and the weight feels like it might actually crush me, I remember Lily's letter. I'll be okay either way. She will be. They both will. They're strong and smart and surrounded by people who actually show for them. They don't need me. But maybe if I do this right, someday they'll want me anyway. Not as the dad they remember, as the man I became after. To anyone reading this, if we're standing where I stood, if we're thinking about that text, that kiss, that choice, stop. Not because we're a bad person. Because we're about to become one. And there's no coming back from that, no reset button, no do-over. There's just the rest of your lived in the shadow of the person chose to be in one moment. Choose better. Be better show. Because I promise the excitement fades. The novelty dies. The new person becomes familiar. And when it does, we're left with the wreckage of everything that actually mattered. We're left standing outside your own, watching someone else live it, wondering how ever thought anything was worth this. It's late now. Almost time for my shift. I'll put on my warehouse uniform, drive across town, spend 8 hours loading trucks with guys who don't know my story. Tomorrow maybe Ethan will text. Maybe not. Either way I'll send him a message asking about his day. Next week I have a supervised visit with Lily. We'll get coffee and talk about school and her art, and I'll try not to cry when she talks about family dinners with Mom and Jake. Next month, my parents' anniversary. I'm invited. Small victories. Next year, I don't know, I can't think that far ahead anymore. I just know that today I made good choices. I showed. I told the truth, I didn't run. Tomorrow I'll try to do it again. And maybe eventually, that will be enough. Not for redemption. Not for forgiveness. Just for the basic human dignity of being able to live with